So we've come down to ESP today and we're going to have a look at some of their new products. Well, I say new products, it's been around for a little while, but it's probably something as electricians you don't really get involved too much in. If you're anything like me, the reason I've come down is to find a bit more information about it. So we're going to be looking at the Beacon range, aren't we, Ryan?
Yes.
And what is the Beacon range then?
So the Beacon range is a disabled refuge system. It's mainly used in like high-rises, assisted living and places of that sort where disabled refuge is required.
Well, straight away, so I'm thinking disabled refuge. So my dad's disabled, this is where the cameramen behind there, they start to cue the tears and the, But my dad's disabled, he lives in supported living. And what I'm thinking straight away is he's got pull cords everywhere in his flat and my daughter's always pulling them, and then he gets stressed and then someone rings through and says, oh, Mr. Barrett, is everything all right? And then he says, yeah, it was just a kid. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking, that's disabled refuge, isn't it?
Very similar. That's a nurse call type of system. Normally it's mainly based in the communals. So if somebody who has a disability requires to call somebody or go to the main central point.
So a disabled refuge isn't usually within sort of a typical flat in, let's say, a supported living?
That is correct, yes.
So when we then think of disabled refuge being in then communal areas, what's the idea behind it then? Because if my dad falls and has got a problem, it's very unlikely he's going to crawl to that communal area. So I'm imagining it's not necessarily to do with, like you said, a nurse call system where he needs somebody's help, although it is clearly for an emergency. But what sort of thing are we normally linking it with?
Normally it'll be linked with like fire alarm panels. So you can go to like an ARC as well if required, like an alarm receive setup. Yeah,
lovely. So what we're saying now actually then is, in terms of a disabled refuge, it's normally in the common areas. It might be a protected escape route, etc. So could it, for argument's sake, is it used more for, let's say you've got a firefighter coming into the building because the alarm's gone off, triggered the ARC, and then they've sent the fire brigade, and actually people who are on a higher story might be stuck in that part of the refuge, and is this a way for them to communicate to say, well, the plan is at the minute to stay put, whether it's a stay put policy, the plan is actually we're going to come up, we need you to stay where you are, we're going to come up and get you, and it's just a communication.
Yeah, exactly that, so if anyone needs any assistance and they're in the communal areas, they can call down to the main central point, whether that's just the responsible person who's there or the fire brigade. Anyone really can then come up and give them assistance.
What sort of regulations are we looking at? Because obviously we hear fire, we think about 58. Does it come under 5839 Part 1? Because Part 6 we know is domestic. Generally we don't see that as a communal being diagnosed as domestic. However, when we look at Part 1, that's our more complex system. So I'm going to go out on a whim and say this is a Part 1 system.
So it comes under BS 5839 Part 9. So it comes under...
That's new to me. So there's a new part, is there? I always thought it was 1 and 6.
No, there is obviously Part 9 as well.
You're ruining my life here, mate.
So it comes under Part 9, which is basically just going over the full disabled refuge system. So that's your disabled toilet alarms, your full refuge panels with your your Type A and your Type B systems.
So they can go in toilets as well?
Correct.
So it's not just for them common communal areas, it is other elements of that building. I suppose anywhere anyone could be stuck, and we have to take a minute to think about the word disabled, don't we? So it's not just necessarily talking about, and again, I know from experience, I'm not going to keep rabbiting on that my dad's disabled for a bit of a sympathy vote, but often we think of disability as just being in a wheelchair, but it's not necessarily. It's not just somebody who has limited movement, let's say, it could be for other areas as well.
Correct, it's not just strictly limited to the physical, it's for anybody who has any type of disability, so it can be used for anybody. It's not just for people in wheelchairs, it can be used for like manual dexterity as well. So anybody can really use it where required.
So what we may be saying there is somebody might struggle to operate a switch, and actually that's why we incorporate things like pull cords.
Correct, yes.
So we have a pull cord system. Again, I think of my dad, he's got multiple sclerosis, and he would struggle to operate a switch. And not necessarily the heights though, because the heights always come under Part M of the building regulations anyway. So if you are in a wheelchair, the heights are managed by that part of the building regulations to an extent, but actually the physical nature of pulling one of these systems. Now, we say disabled refuge, and we talk about 5839 Part 9, again, new one for me. But is there another name for it? Do we often refer to it as disabled refuge? I know on site we'd probably say a disabled refuge system.
Yeah, correct.
But is there another name for this type of system?
People also call it evacuation alert system or evacuation and communication system.
Oh, okay.
So it goes by a couple of names. Most people just call it disabled refuge.
Yeah.
That's mainly what people refer to.
And I suppose with them bits of terminology that you've just used there is that clearly talks about evacuation and communication. So we're obviously looking in 5839 Part 9, and we often link 5839 to be part of the fire regulations, if you like.
Yeah.
So does that mean now we can start to think about using these solely as a fire alarm system, if you like?
So these are strictly additional to the fire alarm panels in Part 1.
Yeah.
These are mainly just for those specific applications.
Yeah, for the evacuation communication,
that's correct.
But we shouldn't be using these as a fire alarm. If you think of it in a logical way, in the event of a fire, if we was maybe using this as a fire alarm system, most people would think, pick this up and shout, fire! Evacuate the building! But that's not the case, is it?
No, it's not.
But again, 5839 Part 9 does give us very extreme circumstances where we may be able to use this as a fire alarm system, but from what you've been teaching me off camera, it actually goes down as you shouldn't really be using this as a fire alarm system.
That is correct, yes.
So we've obviously spoke about high-rise buildings and we've looked at what sort of this is used for.
Yeah.
What other areas? Is it just going to be high-rise? So whenever I see high-rise buildings, and naturally I'm thinking of Grenfell, that's what everyone does.
Yeah.
We speak about fire in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Somebody mentions high-rise building. The first thing that comes to mind is Grenfell. Number one, have these been brought in maybe off of the back of that, or have they been around before that?
So they've been around for about 18 to 24 months. So they just came in mainly for projects, the larger projects that you'd have. So for like hospitals, assisted living, supported shelters, etc.
So it's not just high rise?
Not just high rise, no.
So could there be an argument be made effectively that there's no limitations to where they are fitted, but in terms of if the fire strategy talks about the need for one, then the incorporation of one will be put in, and that goes down to fire strategies, which involves risk assessments and all sorts.
Correct.
So if a fire officer does a risk assessment and says it needs to be in, that's when we'll be looking at installing one.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. If a risk assessment deems it's worthy, then it would be suitably fitted.
And would you say this is typically the job of an electrician? Or is it more typically involved with a fire alarm engineer?
So it can be either or, really. They will need commissioning, of course, and everything else, designing, commissioning, servicing.
Oh, they're the words. So that brings me on, just while we're there, when we look at 5839 Part 9, is that similar to 7671 and 5839 Part 1, etc., where it's not just the installation of something, it's not necessarily the product standard, it's the design, the install, the commissioning and the maintenance. So does 5839 Part 9 cover them 4 areas?
So it does cover design, installation, service and maintenance.
Oh, okay. And so I hear them words there, servicing. I used to work in the fire alarm industry for a little while when I first started training, and we did a lot of servicing. So is there an element of, you've said, not that anyone can fit it, but it maybe can fall under the remit of an electrician or a fire alarm engineer, etc. Is there still a level of competency, experience, skills required to fit something like this? Again, this is a very important system in certain installations and requires care, I imagine, because the design, knowing what levels of switchgear to install, where the control panel needs to sit, how it links with the fire alarm system, where exactly in the refuge areas that we have things like emergency telephones and stuff like that takes a lot of competency in terms of designing it, but also to install it.
Yeah, that's
Again,
correct.
These systems have to be, what's the word I'm looking for, Ryan? What's the word I'm looking for? They have to be...
Due care.
Something like that.
Correct, yeah. So they'll be very similar to like an addressable system.
Yeah.
So you could have to wire them as a loop.
Yeah.
So you'll be wiring them from the panel around all your devices, then back.
Yeah.
You can also do them as radials as well. If you do like.
So you do have 2 options with them.
Yeah, you can have 2 options.
Does that depend, similar with the system, let's say we look at a Part 1 system, some devices are designed to be wired on a radial with an end of line, some are required to be wired in a loop with an addressable system. Is that very similar? Is it dependent on the device you're installing, whether that will be a radial or a loop?
That is correct, yeah. So the The smaller systems here, you can have these on their own individual, or you can have them on the larger outstations.
Yeah.
These you can wire as radials, and all these devices you can wire as radials anyway.
Yeah.
But you can wire them also back to the panel as a loop.
Loop, yeah. So depending on the install, it might be easier to run a loop and wire stuff up that way. So because we're looking at the similarities between these and addressable system.
Yeah.
And I imagine the similarities kind of stop with the wiring side. Are you telling me that I'm going to need a laptop, some software, and then I'm going to have to program stuff? Because we're talking about loops, which we think about addressable, we're addressing the devices. Do we have to do that similar there? Or would it be normal to label these to identify them?
So thankfully, it's all done via hardware. You don't need any laptop or any sort of software.
Lovely.
It's all done via the inside of the panel.
Yeah.
So on the inside, you have your line cards.
Yeah. It looks very similar to the inside of a fire panel, doesn't it, to some extent?
It certainly does, yeah. So you got your battery, of course, for your battery backup. You've got your line cards. This is only a 2-zone device, a 2-line device.
Yeah.
And it can be expandable up to 8 lines.
So for the bigger installs where you might need, is there a certain amount of products we're allowed on a typical line, or is it not that way inclined where we have fire alarm systems, we're allowed a certain amount of devices on a loop, let's say? Is this very similar? Do we have a maximum?
So there is a maximum amount you're allowed. This is dependent on if you have a Type A or a Type B system and which device you're putting on there.
Oh, you're saying Type A, Type B? I'm a Sparky. I'm thinking straight RCDs, MCBs. You got me excited then. What do we mean by Type A, Type B?
So you got your Type A and your Type B.
Yeah.
So basically one is for the fire and one is for the disabled refuge.
Okay, because they don't have to be used as part of a fire system, do they?
That is correct.
They could just be used as a communication system for disabled refuge. So
that is correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I love it. I love it. So now we've mentioned about different lines and line cards and zones, etc.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions there. So we talk about zones. Does that mean really we should have a zone map on show, or is it something that would necessarily be with a maintenance car?
So you can obviously have the map of where they would be located. Sometimes you'll have it on the zone plan, which is integrated in the fire panel.
So if it's integrated with the fire thing, you would normally have it on that zone plan. So a firefighter comes in, they can see where the disabled refuges are. They can see where the zones for the fire alarm are as well. And I imagine they're indicated different on there.
Yeah, they'll have different keys depending on which devices they are, of course.
Yeah. Would it be common practice, again, you might not know this, would it be common practice where if the fire alarm engineer is installing disabled refuge and a Part 1 fire system, would they keep the zones the same? So zone 1 of a disabled refuge would match up with zone 1 of a fire system. So actually when you look at it, you know that zone 1 deals with this part of disabled refuge and that. Is that normally common practice?
Yeah, so normally they'll just sit in the same zones, and there's not a specific that I'm aware of about the zonals on it. Mainly it's distance from the main outstation panel.
Okay. So we've said that they commonly share a zone plan with a fire alarm system. Does that mean they have sounder circuits as well? Because at the minute, it just looks like what all we've spoke about is it's very similar to a fire alarm system. But again, does it have sounder circuits?
So it doesn't have any sounder circuits. It does have some fault relays in there. So you could connect them if you want.
Okay. So they could trigger the sounders in an event, but if it is linked with the fire alarm system, the sounders are probably already sounding.
Correct.
Actually, by somebody picking up a telephone isn't going to activate sounders to indicate someone needs some help because the sounders are going on.
Normally it's someone will pick up the phone and then it'll be a manual intervention from a person on the other side, the operator.
Okay. So it'll almost be like a taxi rank, yeah? So when I go to the local supermarket where I live, they have a free phone there. And the minute you pick it up, you don't have to dial anything, you pick it up, it rings straight through to the local taxi company. So is that effectively sort of what's happening? So somebody would, let's say you.
Someone rings it and then I go, I need some help.
And would this indicate, flash on the panel, a zone?
Correct.
That somebody, and would it make a noise? Does it have a built-in speaker effectively, or is it purely visual?
So normally when you pick up a phone and you take it off the cradle, it'll pop through under one of the lines. So you'll have, depending how many lines you're using. If you're using, let's say 8 lines.
I have to stop calling it zone, don't I? Because I look at that, I'm like zone 1, zone 2, but it's not, is it? Line 1. Yeah, that's fine.
So if it comes up under line 1, then you can answer it, so by pressing the button, etc. And then the operator can open it and then subsequently answer. So in this case scenario, they would answer it, they could speak to the person on the other side. And discuss as to what the issue is.
Ah, lovely. So just on that quickly then, because again, I look at that and I look at the physical need of somebody having to push it open, reach in, take a telephone, bring it to the head. That is the assumption that in the Disabled Refuge, they are able to do that.
Correct.
So do we have anything else where maybe they're not able to pick up a phone? It might be hard work for them. They might get there eventually, but naturally when there's an emergency, it says you've got to try and deal with these things as time is precious, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do we have other products where maybe you wouldn't need to pick up a phone and you could utilize a different method of how to call?
So we also have the other outstation. So if somebody doesn't have the manual dexterity of being able to get to it, they can just press the call button, which will subsequently bring the outstation as well.
And that's a very easy touch, by the way. And what I'm talking about there is, we often see things with buttons and you have to push the button in. That is literally the minute you touch it, click. And then that does the same thing. So that will be on a certain line. Probably, would you have these in conjunction together? So would you normally have one of these and next to it one of these, and they would be wired on the same line? So when they call, it would come up with the same line, and that line is then linked to the zone so that whoever's answering the phone knows exactly where that is in the building.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So you could have these at different points. So you could have your type A and your type B on the same line. Obviously, you are limited by how many you can have.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly you could have one of these and one of these ones, of course.
Oh, lovely. So when now I'm sort of looking at the other products and I've got loads of questions for you, right? So these are clearly there as part of an emergency.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're thinking fire straight away. However, things like the pull cords, that's not acting as a manual call point, is it? It's not like you're going to pull that and it's going to set off the fire alarm system.
Correct.
Are these more for that communication where you were saying just where it's not maybe used as part of the fire system? That's more for a disabled refuge. Somebody needs some help. Somebody has an emergency. That might not be a fire that affects everyone else.
Correct, yeah. So like just general for the whole range there, it's all for manual intervention. So these, of course, can be used on their own singularly, or they can be used on the larger stations as well.
Ah, so they don't have to be used in conjunction with a panel?
No, they do not.
Oh, okay. So these could be used with, again, go back to my dad's flat, these could be used as part of a nurse call system.
Very similar. It's mainly used for the toilets. So let's say you have like a small HMO and you have one in each toilet, and you have somebody who's the responsible person. They'll have the zone module in their flat or somewhere. And let's say flat one pulls this. Then they'll go straight to them. They'll be able to see that as flat one.
They can then go to flat one and investigate and see what the issue is. And I see there's a little cancel button there. And I'm assuming when I spoke about my daughters, and it comes through via voice at where my dad lives. But that is, I pulled it by accident. I can cancel it to say that I'm not in need of somebody attending.
Correct,
and things like this.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the look of this, again, does Part M come into any of this stuff? Because it very much looks like it does with the wide rockers. Yeah, so we obviously spoke about manual dexterity and the ability to operate a switch, where the wide rocker there indicates to me that it probably fits in within Part M of the building regulations.
Correct, yeah. So that one is mainly a lot as well used for a lot of wet rooms. So that is IP rated as well.
Oh, lovely.
So if someone has just, they're unable to get to a shower and they have to have a seated shower, that could be used in that circumstance as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. Nice. So that it's in close proximity to them, and they
instead of being able to pull this.
When they're in the certain environment. And again, you look at places, it does bring other hazards if you've got pull cords everywhere, doesn't it?
Correct.
In terms of entanglement and stuff like that. So that's the Beacon range in a nutshell, but obviously if you have any more questions, feel free to contact the guys at ESP or drop a comment on the video and we can get back to you. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.